Okay, so welcome, Kyra. We're glad to have you join us. So Kyra Hoffner is a lobbyist with League of Women Voters Delaware Advocacy Corps since June of 2000. She's committed to social justice change through advocacy. For the League Day 2019, she coordinated the visits of League of Women Voter members to elected officials and staff in successful initiative to introduce the League's general membership to lobbying at Legislative Hall. Kyra serves as the volunteer coordinator for the Delaware Cannabis Advocacy Network, holding over 60 informational meetings per year since 2016 throughout Delaware. She is also active with NORML, the National Organization for the Reform of Marijuana Laws, and is certified with Americans for Safe Access, Cannabis Care Certification Patient Education Program. As a mortgage originator for Wells Fargo Home Mortgage before early health-related retirement, Kyra was admired and respected for her commitment to families and their future well-being. Her current activism for the environment, social justice, criminal justice, and education gives expression to her passion for these vital issues, together with her interpersonal and professional skills and advocacy with colleagues at the local, state, and national level of legislative initiative. So we're so glad to have you here joining us this evening, Kyra. You can make this as formal or informal as you choose, but we're eager to hear from you, and we would like time to ask questions either at the end or throughout, whichever you prefer.
I actually like a little bit more informal, so we could have questions and with the legislators. I actually almost forgot about the League Day, and when you said that day was kind of crazy. I made 75 appointments with the legislators and different people, and I kind of had to be at each one. So it was hard. But you really get to know the legislators that way, just always being around them. So this year was a little crazy, and I know that a lot of you were working on different bills and you're surprised at different outcomes. Either they passed without any comments, or they just kind of like went away, or they told you that it was going to come to a vote. You know, especially in June, this always happens. The legislators don't even know what's going on half the time. But always know that a bill in the last 2 weeks of session, if it's a little bit controversial, it's not going to go through. I don't care if the speaker promises you, the lieutenant governor. There's just so much going on the last 2 weeks. And whoever the majority party is, they have to convince at least 2 or 3 members of the minority party to get on board. And that's when they'll start using their power of, no, I'm not going to do this for you because you didn't do something else for me. And that happens a lot at Lake Hall. But I really want to know, like, what your main concern is about trying to get certain bills passed. Does anyone want to give me an idea? Lynn, you're on mute.
And you're on mute.
One of the things I think we wonder about is how effective all the letter writing campaigns are, because that's one thing that we as the Peace and Justice Work Group participated in, pretty robustly. We would, forward those on from lots of different organizations when they were issues that we care about, whether it was, healthcare or criminal justice or voting rights, lots of different things. And we would forward them out to our team and say, okay, send these letters. And so at least for me, that's one question I have is how effective do we think they are?
Okay, so the form letters that you get from Action Network, from all the organizations, even the League of Women Voters send them out. The legislators hate them. It's only going to your representative. So when you sign this letter, it's not going to everyone, which if it went to everyone, the ones that are not your legislators are just going to throw it out. They're not even going to count it. But they do have to count their constituents on who supports and who opposes, so they can get a number. But really for them, it's so impersonal that they don't ever want to see a form letter. A personal handwritten letter, not even typed, that means so much more to them. But the other thing on that, I know that you're all citizen advocates, and that's what I always did before becoming a lobbyist. And I felt like I made relationships with every legislator, and I'm like, they're listening to me. I thought it was so great. But then I realized they were just being nice to me. I'm not the constituent. They're not even listening to what I'm saying. They're just smiling and being pleasant. Once I became a lobbyist, then they have to listen. Even if they don't want to talk to me, if I ask for an appointment, they have to give it to me. They have to meet with me for 10 minutes, no matter how much they dislike me, because I will talk to them a lot. But the personal touch, going to their breakfast, and not always bringing up the bill you want to talk about. The legislators, there's some lobbyists that go into, and advocates that go into Lake Hall, and as soon as they see a legislator, they just start saying fact after fact. There's not even like a hello, how you doing? They're like, oh, you got to pass my bill. This is what it is, and this is what it's going to do, and everybody in the town wants it. They're not getting to know who you are, so they're like, okay, this is just another person coming in here and talking. But I've gone to a lot of coffees, and they have like Easter seals events. You just go make a little small talk. They know what you want because you've already either sent a handwritten letter or you signed one of those form letters and sent it off. So they know what you want. You just don't always have to push it on them. They want to kind of get to know you. We had an event yesterday. One of our ladies is retired. Well, two of our ladies are retiring. And when the legislators came, Bill Carson, who really, he's my legislator. He does not like to talk to me. But it was amazing to hear him say that he knows when the League of Women Voters says something, it's coming from a place of integrity, honesty, factual, because he got to know us over the years. We've never gone in there and we never, ever say something that's like halfway. If you're not sure and 100% about a fact, don't say it, because they will call you out on it and they will be like, I'm not listening to you anymore because you told me a story, And that does happen because you get caught up in the moment and you want to get their attention and you just start telling them things to try and get them to understand what you're saying, but the story just might get too big, and then they'll know that right away. So you just want to be very factual, very honest. Being a citizen advocate group, realistically, you should only find people that are in that legislator's district to go talk to them. Sending a group and saying, oh, we're from whatever organization, but we're not lobbyists, they'll listen to you, but halfway. They're not making any decisions based on what you say unless you are their exact constituent. So that is like when you're going out and you need a bill, if you know all your legislators, there's about 12 people on tonight. Well, if all 12 of your legislators support the bill that you want, you really don't have to go and like trying to convince them to force it to go through faster. You can thank them. You always want to thank them. If they're supporting a bill you want, thank them. And then you could ease them into a conversation of, can you convince any of your colleagues to also sign on to this bill? And they'll take that. But if you run up to one of their colleagues and you're not that constituent, it just becomes all haywire and they're not even listening. It's crazy to say, but they only want to hear from their constituents.
What if as a constituent, I set up a meeting, but I take an expert with me if it's a topic that I'm not expert in?
As long as they're from this state.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. We've had a couple of times the national popular vote. We brought somebody in from California and Massachusetts. They were experts. The legislators they didn't even let the guy from California speak at all. And it's like, okay, not going to do that again. But like for me, like I do redistricting, I do criminal justice. The Brennan Center, I get a lot of my information from there. I love when they come and speak. So I use that information, but I don't say to them, okay, this guy from the Brennan Center is going to come and explain it to you. They want you to learn about it and express it with your passion. And they want to make sure that another state's not coming in here, because we do have other states, other organizations coming in trying to tell us as advocates what to say and what to do, use our talking points. And the legislators can tell, they know right away if you're talking from your heart or your personal experience. They absolutely love personal stories. If you could, even if it's 30 years ago and something happened to you working on a homeless bill, a couple of the people that are working on the bill were homeless at one time, and now they're professors and stuff, but they could talk from a personal place. And that helps the legislators realize that this isn't just another glorified bill, it's actually affecting the people in Delaware. Mhm.
Now, what if you do responding to one of those letter writing campaigns, but instead of just clicking the button to send it, you write an introductory paragraph that tells your story and what you're interested in? Will they notice that you have added, original text in that first paragraph, or do they just see the subject line, Action Network, and again, just add it to the tally?
It depends on their aide, because the aide is the one who's reading them all. I always, on any time I send out an action alert, I tell them, please add your own story. And I leave a spot for them to add. And then our facts will follow, here are the facts. But that personal story is key. And really, right now, I feel like we have a lot of good aides down at Legislative Hall. And if you can't get to a legislator, even if they're not yours, you could speak to that aide. And it's actually more powerful because the aide knows the legislator. They'll know when to bring up the topic, how to bring up the topic to the person. Like, we're talking from a place of passion and heart. Some of the legislators, when we talk to them, I feel like I'm talking Japanese to them. They don't know what I'm talking about because the topic is important to me. They're working on 100 topics. They're like, okay, what are you talking about? So, oh, I'm losing my train of thoughts. Sorry about that. But yes, bringing in experts, but the passion part and putting in your story, and then you can use it with other legislators. Talking to the aides is huge because you will know what the legislator is thinking and how they're going to move forward. There's a couple that will tell you this legislator is a definite no. Don't even. You don't want to spend so many hours on somebody who's a definite no. You want to get those maybes, the ones that are on the fence, and push them over to the yes. And then once you have all your yeses, then go to the definite no's and get them to be a maybe. You don't want to take a definite no and work so hard to get them to a yes, because then they put up a wall. Just like we're human, they're human too. Don't think they're stars, they're human. They put their pants on just like us. So you want that personal touch, that personal feeling, and the aides will know how to. I feel like the aides is like the most important people that everyone always skips over. They'll go to the aide and be like, I just want an appointment. No, tell the aide why you want that appointment, because then they can prepare the legislator or even go to talk to the legislator themselves. And most of the aides are on our side. They want the bills that we want, but they work for the legislators. So they have to kind of, draw that line and not give us too much information, but enough information that will let us know that they're on our side, and they will let the legislator know. Also emailing, when you're emailing a legislator, always copy the aide. The legislators, think about how many emails you're getting a day. I'm getting about 2,200 a week. They're getting like 5 times that many, So the aides are the ones who are going through it. The other thing is, when you send these action alerts, there's sometimes that every group in Delaware, there's 400 nonprofit groups in Delaware, we're all sending the same letter. That aide has to sit there and read every single email that comes through. If you send a postcard, if you send it through the US mail, that aide has to reply to every single postcard that comes through. Like, thank you, we got your message, and send a letter back. So you want to think about how much time you're taking up on them too. Like if Network Delaware, Delaware United, and 6 other groups are concentrating on one bill so hard and they're doing the action alerts and stuff, you'll do the action alert, but you're not going to ask all your constituent or all your citizens to do it because they're getting the same email and someone is sitting there counting every one of them. So you want to take that in effect because you don't want to annoy them on a bill. Like, it's like you want to push them to that line, but not annoy them where they're like, forget it, I don't want to do it. You know, it becomes too much. And I know this is a lot because our legislators only work from January to June, Tuesday to Thursday. So you kind of feel like they should be listening to us a little bit more because our state is so small and all these issues that we're asking for totally can work because we are so small. We could all work together and make these changes. And I definitely feel the new legislations coming in from 2018 will listen to us, but once they become part of the system, they're just like the older guys that are, this is the system, this is how we do it. When I was running, my best line was vote me out in 10 years because I will become part of the system. You are who you hang out with, you know, and once you're hanging out with the legislators, you become a legislator. I don't want to ever be called a politician. I'm a public servant. I'm part of the people. And I feel like some of the newer legislators still have that in their mind, like, hey, wait, these are my people. I want to stay with them. But watch them over the years. They become politicians. They want to just do the waving of the hands and, oh, wait, I got to say no on this bill because I want somebody else to pass my bill. A lot of wheeling and dealing in the last 2 weeks. And that's the other reason why I tell you, if a controversial bill doesn't get done before the last 2 weeks, it's really not, it has to be something super spectacular for them to push it through because they're just using it as making a deal with somebody else. I know that's not really what you guys want to hear, but that's what it is.
What would you consider some of the big wins for social justice in this past session?
Oh, I could pull them up actually on, I just had a couple up. All right, so let me see what so HB 9 was definitely a nice bill. HB 9 was it's changing the criminal code to enable juvenile defendants to petition the courts. So we definitely need to, and it deals with the victims of human trafficking. But we definitely want to concentrate on some bills that do have to do with our juveniles. We've been arresting kids. I had a kid the other day. He was 8 years old. They put handcuffs on him behind his back. He's 8. And if you talk to this kid for 5 minutes, you could tell he has a mentality of like a 4 or 5-year-old. Why are you putting handcuffs on this kid? Now this kid is never going to trust the police. He's going to think, oh, the police are only looking to put me in jail. By the time it got to the prosecutors thought it was a joke when it said 8 years old. They throw it out, but now this kid he kind of went through the system a little bit. So that, you know, we don't want any bills that are, we don't want bills that are helping our children. Our children make stupid mistakes. We all did when we were younger. We wrote this. Oh, this is another bill that, yeah, I have all my bills listed, and that's what, one of the most important parts of fighting for a bill is being organized. I keep a spreadsheet and I have the legislator's name, the aide's name, their phone numbers, their emails. So it's all on one sheet. And then I'll have the bill numbers and keep notes of all the different bills on what the legislators say about those bills. Because when you start to work on a bill and a legislator tells you one thing, and then and you're like, okay, you're right, he supports. A couple of months go by and all of a sudden he's voting no on the bill. And you're like, wait, you told me on this day you supported this bill. And then you'll find out different reasons why he doesn't support the bill. Or if he's not giving you a direct answer, you'll start to figure out after you do it a couple of times that, oh, he made a deal for something else that he wanted more. So he's selling out this bill. Even if they're sponsors, they will come off a bill if they think it's going to be better for another bill. Well, and another thing is, like, when a bill is in committee, instead of waiting for that bill to get to the House floor, write the committee. As constituents, you don't have to wait for it to get to the House floor and only talk to your legislator. You're allowed to write the whole entire committee and each person on the committee. So when you always pull up your legislative, Delaware legislative site, open the bill you want, and when you see what committee it's in, you could hit the view button and it'll list everyone that's in that committee with their emails. And CC probably does that already. But a lot of times, if the chair of the committee does not like a bill, he won't even call it. It'll never get through that committee. So getting to the committee members is probably a stronger way than sending the action alerts or waiting for it to be announced on the House floor.
Actually, the Action Network letters, you can program and set them up to send to whoever you want to. And so, for instance, the Campaign 10 Debtors Prison, we had it sent to the entire Judiciary Committee,
Yes.
Attorney General Kathy Jennings, as well as the writer's own legislators. So it was going out to, a whole set of people when they hit send.
Okay, so see what you just did? You sent out a mass letter instead of rating the committee members. It's only 6 or 7 committee members. So why are you sending a blasted email? Write them. Just write them. Hi, I'm Lynn. This is what I want. Because it's more personal. And they'll tell you as soon we'll look at their faces when they're getting these form letters. And then when you see, John Viola was famous for this. He kept every hand letter he ever got in his desk. He kept a couple in his jacket pocket, because he was like, his constituent actually took time to understand the issue and write him about it. I'm running from the minute I wake up until the minute I go to bed. And sometimes if I know Network Delaware or Delaware United sends over something, I know I'm going to support it. I'll read it real quick and I'll be like, send. Okay, now the legislators know I didn't read that because I didn't put my personal touch in it. So they're counting that I support it, but they don't know why I'm supporting it or that personal touch. The personal touch, we're not Pennsylvania, New York, all these big states. Our legislators know us. Like, I'm sure if Lizzie Lockman was walking down the street and she saw Lynn, she would say hello. She knows you. But like when you're in these bigger states, they don't know their constituents. They're just a number, a voter. That's it. In Delaware, we're all 1 degree of separation. Everybody knows each other somehow. So that personal touch goes a long way, a lot longer. Kathy Jennings, I probably would never send her a form letter. Only because she works on that personal touch. She will come and hold your hand and say, I want to know about this, but then you have some other legislators that are very closed off. Even when you're trying to get personal to them, they keep that wall up. So for a legislator like that, I would go right to their aide and let their aide do my work for me. I can see the wheels turning. Yeah. Oh, yeah, you were asking about big wins this year. We had a
I think
couple.
Roger had a question.
Oh, okay.
Well, go ahead. Go ahead and talk about the bills, because I had a question about lobbying, but go ahead.
Oh, no, let's finish that and then we can go into the bills.
Well, there was a couple years ago, the people that were supporting gun rights got together with a lot of people and they besieged Legislative Hall. I think they represented a small minority, but they were very vocal and they were very effective. Can you comment on that? Did they throw weight behind their numbers because of that action they took?
Well, the gun right people, that's actually one of the bills I would like to get passed, is not letting guns allowed on federal property or state property. They walk around the building with their guns and, you know, that's not nice. But Senator Lawson is part of that group. So you're never going to change Senator Lawson. He loves guns. He wants everyone in the world to have a gun and come to his property. He's invited the League of Women Voters out there to come shoot guns and why we should love that and why we should have all this ammo. So it's super hard for, so Dave Lawson, I mean, he's the main one, but there's a couple of others, legislators that just, they love the guns. Once you pass that canal, they love guns. They don't take away my rights because you took my gun away. And they're not understanding. We're not taking your gun away. We just want sensible laws. It's considered a controversial bill. So if there's any pushback, if they don't have the majority of the votes, they're just going to drop it. They don't want to cause the waves. But I feel like Moms Demand Action has been doing a really good job on getting more people to come out and be vocal about how they don't want guns in their local shopping center. When I go to the store, I don't want the guy next to me holding a rifle that has 100 bullets in it, you know? And yeah, we just really need to work harder on the guns. They're using the Second Amendment by dropping some of the commas out of the Second Amendment, so it changes the meaning. And it's been going on for hundreds of years. And some of those people really believe it. You're really taking away my Second Amendment because I'm not allowed to walk around with military style weapons. But they're not really understanding how the Second Amendment was really written. And they show up. If we don't show up, and 90% of lobbying is just showing up. You know, so if they show up, they do. They put out a letter, and most of those gun rights went down to DC on January 6th. They had 5 busloads. The Republican Party paid for it, and they all went down to DC. So these are we all think and watch DC on the news like this isn't happening here in Delaware. But yeah, no, we had 5 busloads. 5 busloads of people that are always at Lake Hall went down there to do what they did on January 6th. So it does make me nervous when they're showing up and they're in the fields across the street from Lake Hall and they're all carrying guns. You know, I don't see how that could be safe. And the legislators, I mean, realistically, how are you supposed to vote when you have 300 people outside with guns? You know, you just kind of want the bill to kind of just calm down, do it at midnight when nobody's around. They do that too. When a bill is very controversial, they'll do it and not let anybody know and just pass it.
What happened this past session when it comes to voting? I sort of lost track of that. I was so busy looking at the criminal justice bills and some of the other things that were under discussion. And yet, you know, Delaware has no early voting. It has, you have to have an excuse for an absentee ballot until COVID last year.
Right.
And so it seems to me that we're among the most restrictive states in terms of facilitating people's ability to vote.
You're definitely talking about HB 75.
Okay, but I didn't hear about it. I didn't do anything about it. I missed it. I just missed it. And I don't know how that happened.
It was a very controversial bill. So we do have, the Democrats do have, I don't want to say we, because I don't know who everybody is on the call. And the League of Women Voters stays nonpartisan, but I am Democrat. The Republicans, they needed 2 or 3 Republicans to get this passed. Even though we're the majority vote, we needed a 2/3 vote on this bill. So all the Democrats voted yes. We had 3 Republicans, and at the last second, they decided to change it to no. At the last second, once they changed their votes to no, we didn't have the votes to pass it. So Valerie Longhurst changed her vote to no. So now it got laid back on the table and didn't just die. So it can be brought back next year.
And was that the no excuse absentee voting? Is that
Yeah.
that bill? Okay.
So now some of this is rumor, but some of it is true. Two of the Republicans went to the Speaker of the House, who is doing the redistricting, and asked if they could be protected, just like he's going to protect the Democrats, which is totally illegal in redistricting, but that's how Delaware does it. And Pete said no, so that's why they turned around and voted no on HB 75. Now, a few weeks later goes by, and now we're finding out that the speaker has decided he will protect all the incumbents, no matter what their party is. Still illegal. The voters pick the representatives don't pick us. They've been doing it like this in Delaware for 60 years. Drawing the lines behind closed doors and just having the voters say, oh, yay, we have a new representative. But the League of Women Voters this year, all 50 states, we have taken up trying to help with redistricting. We actually got the grant money to redistrict, but our legislators in Delaware are not letting us do it. They're just not going to let us have an independent commission. Our speaker is definitely hell-bent on certain things. He wants all the power. He's also a retired police officer. And remember this when you're voting. My father's a retired police officer. Retired police officers make terrible legislators. They only vote with their cop buddies. So if you ever want like any kind of criminal justice reform and your best friend who used to be a police officer is running for office, remember, they're still your best friend, but they're not the best person for the job. They're just not. They're so removed from the citizens. So, you know, they only hang out with their cop buddies. They only vote with their cop buddies. And that is not working for the citizens. So redistricting and voting are so important. We have to make sure that candidates that are coming up are not just part of the system. A lot of times if somebody's going to retire, a retired police officer, he's been a legislator for 40, 45 years in Delaware, and it's time for him to retire. Instead of saying, okay, well, these 5 people are showing interest, they're politically involved, one's a realtor, one's a small business owner, they match their citizens. Oh, but my buddy from the precinct wants to run, so I'm going to just back him. We can't have that happen anymore because we're in a situation where the cops are just doing whatever they want and they're not accountable to anyone. And we can't ask the legislators to do anything because half of them are retired police officers or current police officers. So we definitely want to watch our voting. And the absentee ballots that the Republicans are fighting, I just heard it again this Wednesday. They're claiming that 1,000 people in their district voted that were not really there. And that just didn't happen. It didn't. This has been, even with all the craziness of the COVID and our past federal administration, it still was the safest election and the biggest turnout ever. And everything was safe. So I don't know why the Republicans are fighting it so hard. Mike Smith actually got more mail-in ballots than he normally would get because of this whole program, but yet he's not voting yes on it. And then we have somebody mid-state, Kevin Hensley, again, he got a lot of mail-in votes. Why won't he? We're not saying everybody's going to mail in. They're going to request a ballot and they're fighting on it. The Republicans are very in a tough spot because they're in the minority this year and redistricting is happening. So they're not going to see any release until 2022. And we don't even know if they will then, because what if we have more Democrats take over? We don't have a lot of Republicans right now. Like when you go and like, oh, the whole side of the room of the House is Democrats. I mean, it's coming into their side. It's no more even. And even on the Senate side too, we outnumber them.
Going back to this claim of 1,000 votes that were not, whatever, who's making that claim and why aren't they being asked to put forth evidence?
They don't have evidence.
Well,
They've been asked.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If it's someone in a position of responsibility, why can't they be asked to produce it or,
Common sense, like they're supposed to be transparent because they're a public official. They're just not. I mean, they can't. So when they say, before I heard about this thing on Wednesday about the 1,000 people who voted, they were saying, oh, so-and-so died and they still got a ballot. I said, well, you didn't fill it out, did you? Like if a ballot went to somebody who has been deceased, you don't fill it out, you throw it out or contact the election office and say, this person is no longer with us. Now, for the election roll to change, it takes several times of someone not showing up to vote or getting information that they're no longer here before they'll be taken off the ballot. It would be nice, and I believe ACLU is working on this, that if you leave Delaware and go register in another state, your name should be dropped off our ballot. So you're not registered in 2 states. That doesn't happen right now, but this is something we're working towards. We need everyone on board to get there, not have them tell us, well, it's all fraud, it's all fake. Well, work with us and make it work. Let's get this going. We wanted an opt-out at motor vehicles. We wanted everyone to be automatically registered. When you go to motor vehicles, they're like, do you want to register? And you could hit no or yes. Well, we want it to be automatic. And then if they don't want it, then they have to check no. I think it happened, I can't remember because my kids got their license so long ago. If they were automatically, I believe they were automatically registered. And then when they turned 18, they had to pick their party line. So, but we have to get tighter on that. And motor vehicle is definitely a good place to know when people move, if they're deceased. Another small thing that would be so easy, but this would have to be another bill, is if the election department could take a copy of a death certificate. Why do we have to keep them in the voter guide for 2 presidential election cycles? So that's 8 years if they're already deceased. It's not fun for the family to keep getting mail for the person to go, hey, go vote. When you get your voter card, they don't want to see the person that they love deceased getting mail 8 years after they died. So these are all little things that are just such easy fix, but no matter what we do, we constantly have the other side saying, no, that's not common sense. It's not an easy fix. It's not good for my voters. And a lot of it comes from voter suppression. They just don't want people voting. I'm not sure why,
I heard that one issue on the no excuse absentee voting was whether absentee ballots would be automatically mailed or whether they had to be requested. And I think the way the HB 75 was drafted, they would be automatically mailed, which I know made one legislator unhappy.
Yeah, but we only did the automatic mail during COVID. So I'm gonna have to check that because we made sure it was gonna be a request situation, because a lot of people want to go to the polls. No matter what happens in their life. My mom is 77 years old. I'm never going to talk her into mail-in ballots. It doesn't matter. She is going to go to the polls. And then when I talk to the college kids, they're like, well, we never did it before. They wanted to go to the polls. So it should be a request situation, not an automatic, we're going to just blanket 990 letters out to everyone and say, vote. You will get an automatic letter saying, do you want to? Yes.
Yeah, my experience.
Oh, I thought you called me.
I'm sorry, yeah. My experience last year during COVID was perhaps they sent out letters saying that you now can request an absentee ballot even without an excuse, but they didn't my husband requested one. I did not. We both ended up going to vote in person, and he learned that what he really
Okay.
needed to do was take the absentee ballot with him and turn it in unopened at the voting site. But I didn't get an absentee ballot. I didn't ask for one, and one was not sent to me automatically last year.
Well, you should have got a letter.
Oh, I might have
You
gotten
should
a
have got a
letter
letter stating that.
There's a
saying
different,
that I could,
Yeah,
that I could
yeah.
request it, which is not, I think Sally's
Right.
point was, part of it is, are you just gonna mail these ballots to everybody, which is a different.
Well, yeah, so you're gonna automatically get the letter, and then the
Right.
actual ballot has to be requested.
Requested,
But
but
last
they're
year
not
was
even
very
sending out the letter
crazy.
this year, right? This year they
Well,
won't, or the
this year
next
it's not
election,
a-
they won't even send out the letter, right?
Only if we could pass this bill.
Right, got it.
Only if we get
Got
this
it.
bill passed, yeah.
Got it.
Because
but HB 75 would keep in place the way we did it during COVID, which is sending a letter, not a ballot to everyone, just
Right.
sending a letter saying you can request a ballot if you'd like.
Right, right.
So I actually, and I probably shouldn't say this, but I'm going to tell you guys. I kind of messed up when I went online to request my ballot, and now I'm a permanent person who doesn't have to go to the polls. But I also got my ballot emailed to me. I filled it out, printed it to PDF, and sent it right back. So I never even had to go to the mailbox. I didn't even have to do anything. I just did it all online.
There was a brief few weeks when the state of emergency was first called, and before the legislature passed whatever they passed to enable the no excuse voting. There were a few weeks there where you could do, because I did the same thing and just selected that I would do it that way for the remainder of the year. And so, yeah, I was able to actually vote online.
Yeah.
I didn't have to use a stamp to mail in a vote, and I didn't have to go in person. I was able to do it all online.
Which they need to start understanding that, like, our generation's like the middle generation. We're not going to convince the older people that online and ranked choice voting and all these new systems are good. But the younger generation, they're going to change everything. They're just waiting for us to leave. You know, they're like, you guys are voting wrong. You're doing it all wrong. Do it like this. So, which is nice that they're being respectful to us and letting us do it the way we've always done it, because this is tradition and this is how you're supposed to do it. But I could see it maybe 20, 30 years down the line, there's not going to be voting places. They're all going to, the kids are going to do it online. They're going to not vote with the electoral college. They're going to use something else, because ranked choice voting is coming up very fast. And then there's another voting system that's called score voting, or is it score voting, which the kids, so my kids are like 25 and a little younger. That's what they're used to. That's how they got scored in school. That's how they got scored in college. Sporting events get scored that way. So this whole electoral college thing blows their mind, and they don't think it's right. It's not fair. They're like, well, wait a second, somebody got the popular vote, but the other guy won. That's how we do it, you know? So I'm glad they're not like jumping at our heels yet, but it is coming. Ranked choice voting is like everywhere. I keep getting invited to meetings. The League of Women Voters did a 2-year study on it. It's coming. Now, the nice part about the machines that we bought last year for $18 million, they will be able to be reprogrammed to any way we are going to change our voting system too. So, because I was a little nervous that we spent $18 million on machines and now everyone's voting from home. I was like, oh, yeah, we don't have a lot of money in our little state. We can't be wasting it.
Were those the machines we used for the school board election? That system was rather impressive.
Yeah,
But it was
okay, so you
brand
use the
new.
new, yep, those are the new machines.
New machines.
Yeah.
Yeah, they were used in the election last November, and for the school board election.
The school boards.
Oh, I actually drove down and parked and took my ballot into the building and got a receipt for it.
Yeah, no, I went to the
And that's
polls
another
and I did my little thing behind the curtain and the whole 9 yards. I'm one of those people that, but I vote at HB Middle School in Hockessin. I have never been behind more than 6 people when I went to vote. The line wrapped around the hallway, down and back, out the door, up across the parking lot, and up the lawn
Oh my God.
in November.
Is that because people didn't understand the new voting machine? Like what was going on?
No, more people
More
were
people
there
voted.
voting. More people were voting. I have never
Well,
seen anything like it. And the numbers were up and the numbers were way up in the school board election as well. The thing I struggle with is that anyone should have to stand in line for hours to vote.
Right.
It makes no sense. And you throw in bad weather and it's incomprehensible to me that anybody thinks that standing in line for 1, 2, 3, 4, 6 hours it's unconscionable. I just don't understand it. I don't understand it.
And it's happening more and more.
Of course it
You know,
is.
the voters.
Of course it
yeah.
is. Of course it is.
Federally, there was 319 voter suppression bills. You know, and they're working on passing them. I hope they don't pass. But like you said, I missed going to the election polling location today. It's like the day that you see people that you don't always see all the time, you know, the ladies from the neighborhood, and I kind of missed it. So when my daughter went to go vote, I went with her and just stood in line with her. You know, I was like, I miss seeing everybody. In today's world, I don't understand. Well, I do understand, but everyone parks in their garages. You know, nobody's seeing each other on the streets anymore. There's not a lot of neighborly things going on. A lot of different people moving into the community. So you're not getting to know your neighbors. Go to the bowling place, you'll see all your neighbors, you know? So that's one thing, like when the college kids wanted to go, I was like, you have to do it once, you know, don't just jump right into mail-in voting. You have to go and experience it. And they liked it. It's definitely, it's our right to vote, and it feels good to pull that lever, you know?
Yes. And so I think the question for us is, so what needs to be done in preparation for the next legislative session to see if some changes to these voting rules can't be accomplished in the next session?
Just encourage more people to vote. And then we have to work on the legislators on making it easier to vote. I do know I don't have the bill number, but they are going to try and make Election Day a holiday. That would be a lot easier for people to get out to vote, and not just 7 a.m. and after 5 o'clock. You know, depending on so we need, even if they gave people 2 hours off, give them some time to actually go out and vote. I know the teachers had like, this year, teachers had like some kind of education in teacher learning. And yeah, so they were allowed to go for like an hour to go vote, but the lines were so long that some of them couldn't. They had to get back to their class. They have to get back to what they're doing. So we should have that ability. We should be letting people vote any way they want, through the machines, a drop box. They want to vote online, because everybody has a different reason why they can't go vote. You know, whether this year it was a lot of people were sick. Some people were scared of getting sick, so they just didn't want to be around crowds. So we should give, any way people want to vote, they should be allowed to vote that way. But we have to fight, you know, get the legislators to get on board with that. So make it a holiday. If that's the only thing you can give us that, you know.
So I agree with allowing people to vote in any way they possibly can, but I think to avoid controversy and concern about invalidating, what are the mechanisms that the election system has for throwing out somebody who fills out a ballot for a dead person? I mean, they fill it out and they mail it in. Does it get checked and counted? Or how do they compare it to the death record? I mean, how do they do that?
Well, the signatures have to match.
Well, yeah, okay, but
So
so everybody has a copy of their parent's signature, you know? I mean, could it happen? And there must be a mechanism, and we just don't know what it is, because theoretically, that ballots are checked for, they must have a way of knowing that it's valid or not.
Well, so when I did mine, and I'm sure Lynn did this too, I had to put in, because I did it online, I had to put information only I would know. The last 4 digits of my social security number. And then they asked me another question that I thought was funny, but only I would know it. Even if I fill out all these like fun forms online, and you know how people that are scammers, they try and figure out different things about you. These questions were only things I would know, and things that I don't even like think about. Like, I can give you my husband's social security number quicker than I can give you mine, you know?
Oh, like when they do the random connection, did you ever live in this state? Or did you own a car of this model? Or did you have, you know, which of these doesn't compute for you? I get that. So they're like 4 questions that are totally random, but somebody has that information to know that you're answering it correctly. But I would know that for my parents if the ballot came to me at my address, which it wouldn't because they didn't live with me. But the example you gave was one that would make you wonder, could somebody actually fill out one of those ballots and mail it in?
And Chris, I think the issue with all of this is, so how many of these situations do you actually think are going to arise?
Well, I hear you. Yes, I agree. But that's the scenario that the naysayers are invoking to reject these opportunities.
Well,
And I don't know how you answer that.
Well, go ahead.
Sandy, Roger?
Well, my comment would be, what's the risk and what's the reward? The
Right.
risk is considerable. And why would you know, 1 vote seldom sways an election, but why would you risk jail time and fines for 1 vote? How many people want to do that? Because the penalties are considerable.
That's true. Like the man that voted recently who was on parole, who's getting 40 years or something. Hopefully
Right.
he'll get off. Hopefully he'll get off.
as far as dead people are concerned, I don't know whether Delaware does this, but it should be pretty easy to do a match with Social Security. If people, when they die, come off of Social Security.
You know, you're all coming
you're
up with
reported.
such exact questions and situations that definitely could happen that are reasonable, where when the Republicans are saying it or the opposers are saying it, they're just saying it's so unreasonable. I don't want to throw another thing on you guys, but Anthony Albanese, he's our election commissioner. He would come and talk to everyone. He is very open to explaining it on how their system is. And I wonder about the Social Security. Why couldn't we do that? Right? That makes perfect sense. If you're not going to take a death certificate, if Social Security stopped paying the people because they're gone, that would be a way to say, okay, they're gone now.
Well, one
Or
other thing
if they moved out of state.
I thought Roger was going to say about risk reward, it's also about likelihood and amount of energy to prevention. If something is rampant, you do major preventive things. If there are 1 or 2, you don't spend a whole lot of energy to prevent something that is completely unlikely to happen. And there's a professor from Loyola who did a study over 14 years from 2000 to 2014 of 1 billion votes. And he found 36 credible possibilities of voter misrepresentation out of a
So
billion
how
votes.
we know
over
that
14 years.
we know this, the risk and reward. We know that this whole thing is unlikely to be reality, but how do you convince or
You
how do
don't.
you change the mindset for those people that are out there blaspheming about the risks of voting? And that's why these bills are being passed.
Because it really isn't
The voter suppression
about
bill.
that. It really isn't about that. It is about keeping groups of people from being able to vote.
Right. So
You need to elect people who are going to hold the view that you have two choices in the role of government when it comes to voting. It is government's role to facilitate voting, or it is the government's role to obstruct voting. And as long as you vote for and elect people who believe that their job is to obstruct voting, you get what we're getting. And if you elect people who say it is everybody's right to be able to vote, it is fundamental, and we need to elect people who hold that truth to be as self-evident as some of the others, that's the way that it changes. It's just stage 47 in the culture wars. That's all it is.
I mean, some of it is, there's also room to, protect the voter, or pick whatever other adjective you want. And there
Of
are some
course.
common sense things,
Of
Kyra gave
course.
some examples of making sure when someone moves to another state that they get pulled off the rolls in the state they were in. So there's not
Sure.
a possibility of them being double counted. How many people are running back and forth and trying to vote in multiple states? I don't know, but it's common sense to prevent it. So
Mhm.
we shouldn't have to rely on the fact that not many people will do it. Let's just
Sure.
not allow it to happen.
Absolutely.
Um,
Absolutely.
So there are common sense things. And, so a pragmatist would say, let's go ahead and negotiate some legislation that is based on common sense, makes it as easy as possible for people to vote over extended periods of times, hours, methods and stuff, but at the same time is putting in as many safeguards as possible to protect and make sure that people don't have the easy ability to vote for someone else or vote twice or whatever. And, I do get frustrated because I think that, even the progressives trying to make the voting easy can speak in extreme ways about the other side and
Mhm.
saying that it's ridiculous that they want to put in any of these protective measures and stuff. And some of them are common sense protective measures. And
Absolutely.
we should be willing to acknowledge that and incorporate them into the legislation.
Mhm.
I agree
Instead
with
of
that.
saying they
And
thought
yet,
that's what has
and
to be
yet I
done.
still don't think you would get the support for the legislation. So yeah, I agree. I agree. The common sense stuff makes all the sense in the world. I don't believe it fundamentally would change the positions that people hold. But there we are.
You're both saying like the right thing.
There we are.
Um, right now, currently in our climate, Sue is right about we're not going to change minds. But then Lynn's also right because, I feel like, why are they just putting up that wall, both sides, not just one side? The progressives start screaming about something, then the Republicans are going so far the other way saying, no, no, no. We need moderates. That's why we love Joe Biden. He's a moderate. He comes in, he meets in the middle, and you gotta listen to both sides because checks and balances will keep everyone honest. And
It's just, and it's kind of at the heart of this. It's a difficult time because fundamentally to debate and to discuss and to compromise and to reach agreement, you need a basis of agreed upon facts. And those are hard to come by these days. They're hard to come by, but they are the foundation. Agreed upon facts are the foundation for compromise. And
right.
that's the challenge.
We have already run past 1 hour, but let me end on a positive note by reviewing some things that we did accomplish last session. And maybe some people can throw out things that, we look forward to having more success next session. But, we got the $15 an hour minimum wage passed. That was awesome. We got clean slate passed. So the automatic expungements, that passed. Good stuff. We got several of the police reform initiatives. We got body cameras and use of force legislation passed. The big one, Leobor, of course, didn't, but that's another story. We have, teaching Black history in our schools. We have, there were a lot of positive things did get done and accomplished. So, I just don't want us to walk away from all this discussion feeling like nothing ever gets done. We're not making any forward progress, because we are. There was good stuff that happened and a lot of work remains, but just wanted to throw that out there.
Oh, all right. That's one thing I will share. Just like I was talking about being organized, maybe I won't share because it's not coming up. Wait for criminal justice. I had, I'm sorry, it's in my Google Docs. Just keeping a spreadsheet of the bills, and then like the one, because session goes over 2 years, you just keep the ones that are not done in red that you want to concentrate. And then as they pass or what happens, you turn it to black, but you keep the sponsor's name on there, the little notes, and it just helps you when you go to lobby a legislator, that you're not saying, well, Representative Williams said this, and she didn't really say that. But if you have your notes, you could say, yes, she said this on this day. You don't really want to play the legislators too much against each other by say like Valerie Longhurst and Nicole Poore, we all know they're friends. You don't want to tell one that the other one is voting for something unless you absolutely know, like you have to know in your heart, you have to hear the words from the other one. Just, you don't want to lead any of the legislators down the wrong road, and because they won't ever talk to you again. And the whole 80-90% show up, be friendly, they know what you want. And then if you feel like you've been seeing them too many times and they don't know what you want, say, hey, I need you for 10 minutes. And they'll, even if you're in the hallway, just move over and say, this is what I'm interested in getting done. But that would only be your constituent, your legislator, you are the constituent. And really the committees, contact the committees, personal notes, that will get it done. Does anybody want to be a lobbyist?
Well, we're really looking forward to the legislature passing fines and fees and Leobor reform in the next session, along with a few others. And many thanks to Lynn for her tireless efforts in that regard. So, and many of us.
So what do you plan?
Letters and go ahead.
Well, what do you plan to do from June until January on the bills that are most important to you? Like, are you going to do public education to start getting more people to write there, or are you just going to wait until next January and go back to your legislators?
I think it's really important to gear up and prepare.
Yeah, so I think for most of the group coalitions and little groups and stuff that we've been working with, folks are kind of taking a little bit of time off to regroup, rejuvenate, but then we'll be diving right back in, August or whenever it is, to start strategizing and building for the next session, because it's not only educating the public and building that side up, but also starting to work, the budget gets, developed, September or whatever, it's starting to get put together. So anything that has a fiscal note has to be, worked into the process, then starting to work on some, in the case of fines and fees, potential other sponsors for certain pieces of the bill, rather than trying to get it all into one package. So yeah, there'll be lots of other stuff going on. I don't think we as a Peace and Justice work group have developed any particular strategy yet, but we continue to meet every Thursday in this forum to educate ourselves about things, but also have other groups and meetings and things going on. So we'll be, continuing to work on this stuff throughout, not just waiting till next January.
Right. But you would be surprised how many groups do wait till next January, and they miss that opportunity of having a one-on-one coffee. you're not in session right now. You'll get them for a little bit longer. They'll start to miss their constituents and be like, oh, okay, I'll meet you for coffee. And then you can really start asking them the questions. Also, try and get to some of their group coffees or their happy hours. And you could ask them a question in front of the entire crowd. They might feel like their back's against the wall a little bit, but they will give you an answer because everybody else in the room will be looking at them and say, yeah, what's your answer on that? So you don't want to argue with them ever, but you want to kind of push them a little bit, and just having that one-on-one time not in session is a little nicer because you're not rushed. You could sit down and actually talk and why it's important to you.
Roger,
and-
your hand is up still. Is that an artifact, or is your hand up again?
You're muted,
Oh,
so
there
we're
he
not
is.
hearing you.
Yeah, sorry, forgot to take it down.
Okay, just checking.
Well,
Well, I'm always around. I could throw my email in the chat box. If you have questions or want to know about maybe becoming a lobbyist and taking this a little further. Was
And
that
just-
Lynn laughing because I keep asking her to be a lobbyist?
Well, one of the things that I learned when Kyra refers to being a lobbyist, this is not a paid position, but it is a registered position. So becoming a registered lobbyist is what gives her that access where every legislator is required to take her calls.
Yeah.
And that's something that I never knew. I didn't understand that once you're a registered lobbyist, and it's still not completely clear to me exactly what groups are allowed to have registered lobbyists, but I probably a 501c4 or instead of 3, but
Most of us are nonprofits. The league is both C3 and C4, so I'm not really sure which side allows us
I think it's
lobbying and
C4.
one's education. Like we have to go out and do education. We do a lot. The league. So I'm part of the advocacy corps, and then we have each county has its own league. And they do more of the educating the public on vote 411 and candidates. They go and observe county councils and city council meetings. So when voting time does come up, we know how these legislators or elected officials voted on if we want to keep them or not. Do their votes throughout the year match what they told us before they got in office? So that's like a nice part. And then for my part, I do more of workshops and community education, but from January to June, I am in Lake Hall and always talking to someone. You just have to constantly. We had a very special event for Sandy Spence last night. And even when she was leaving, she said 80% of it is showing up. Just show up and they'll know what you want.
Well, so thank you very much, Kyra, for spending your evening with us. Hopefully it has inspired us and better prepared us for the coming session.
Yeah, great. Thank you so much. Have a great night.
And Sandy Weinecker, would you like to say a word or two about next Thursday?
Sure. Next Thursday evening at this 7 o'clock hour, we will have David Wilk, who is the chairman of the board of the Friends of Hockessin Colored School number 107. And he'll be telling us about that school, as it was. And there are plans for the little building that still is on that property to be made into a center for diversity, inclusion, and social equity. And I only learned, in the past year or so that school, there was a lawsuit connected with the student who attended the school that became the basis, one of 4 or 5 lawsuits that were the basis for Brown versus the Board of Education. So this little building in the middle of Hockessin is of really great importance in our history. And we'll learn a lot more about that. There's a board that is trying to raise that up for our knowledge and also to make something very positive out of it for the future. So it should be an exciting time.
Sandy, will you be recording it?
I believe so.
Yes, we will.
Good.
Okay.
Thank you,
Thank you, everyone. It was great seeing you.
everyone.
Everybody.
Good night, all.
Thank you. Good
Night.
night.